Hello everybody, it's Casey, and I am recording this video in hopes that I will make the new penalty system that we are trying for Season 7 a bit more clear for captains, and then also I would encourage captains to share this video with their players if they want them to be aware. But yeah, so quick overview. How does the new system work? What is it? I will explain what major and minor penalties are, and then I also have a couple of examples that will hopefully make things more clear. Then I'm going to talk about why I'm changing the system, as well as what will change both for the players and also for the admins, because I want to make this system as transparent as possible. So I want to tell you guys what exactly will change. So first, what is it, essentially? So it is a team-wide repeatable 5-strike system. What does that mean? Every time, I should also mention, this is primarily and almost exclusively for reporting match slips and the repository. That's something that I wanted to mention. But yeah, so it is a team-wide repeatable 5-strike system. What is that? Every infraction that a player would have when they are submitting their result to the repository will incur a strike. 1 strike for a minor, 2 strikes for a major, and I'll talk about the differences between those two in a slide coming up. Once a team reaches 5 strikes, they will receive a 1-point deduction, and the points I'm referring to here are when you play your matches for the week, you get 5 points for winning the week, 2 points for a tie, 0 points for a loss. If your team at any point, and this will carry over week to week, accumulates 5 strikes, you will receive a 1-point deduction. So the point deduction is less than if you were to tie a week in terms of the amount of progress you gain or lose. But it could factor into some tiebreakers. So there is a incentive to not get these strikes, of course. And once you hit those 5 strikes and the point is deducted, then the counter will reset to 0. And you could theoretically get an infinite number of these point deductions. And then strikes are only counted if they remain unreported by the end of the week, and every 3 proper reports will subtract a strike. And again, I have examples of this, so if you're a little bit confused with my wording here, hopefully the examples will clear them up. First, what are the major and minor infractions? So the major infractions, which will incur 2 strikes, are things like failing to save or upload your replays, and if you no-show a set. Those are the 2 things that are the most important to me, because if you don't have the replays, you are gaining an unfair advantage to the players that do submit the replays, and if you no-show a set, you're kind of like disrespecting your opponent's time. And we had a issue with like a epidemic of people no-showing sets last season that frankly I do not want to deal with again. So those will be considered major infractions. Minor infractions are if you have an error in submitting the team members. For example, if the formatting is incorrect, that would be a 1 strike infraction. Also submitting the match slip if you lose a set, because then we have 2 reports for the same set. We don't need that. There's going to be a full list of the major and minor infractions in the revised rulebook. This is not all of them. These are just some of the more likely to come up examples of major and minor infractions. So you can check out the rulebook to see all of those if you want. Now some examples. So player A on Team 1 lost their set but submitted a match slip, and this is Team 1's first infraction. What happens? Team 1 receives a strike. That's all. In this scenario, because they have no other strikes, they don't get a point deduction, all that kind of stuff. In this example, player B on Team 2 no-shows their set. Team 2 has 3 strikes already, so what happens? Team 2 will receive 2 more strikes, because no-showing is a major infraction, which brings their total to 5. Because they hit 5 strikes, they'll receive a 1-point deduction, and their counter will be reset. And finally, in example 3, player C on Team 3 wins their set, but incorrectly submits their Pokemon. The captain of Team 3 checks the submission and reports the mistake before the end of the week. No strikes are incurred because the report allowed us to fix the mistake, and 1 report progress is marked towards a strike removal. Great. Additionally, if a error is reported and your team has no strikes, you will get a 1 strike buffer. So essentially you would have -1 strikes. So there is still incentive to report mistakes if your team has no strikes. But now I want to talk about why I am trying to change this system. And the main thing is the previous system kind of resulted in a negative outcome no matter what we did, because either like a player makes a mistake, and if we give them a game loss or a set loss for their next set, the captain is incentivized to basically not allow them to play, because why would you want your players to have an automatic game loss when you could just have somebody else play instead? And if we're just going to apply a game loss to like a random person in a set, how do we decide who gets the game loss? That's not fair to the person who would get the game loss. And then if we enforce a retroactive game loss for the set that the mistake occurred, it could flip the result of the set, which in turn could flip the result of the week, and that's just a whole like can of worms that I frankly did not want to deal with anymore. Additionally, the previous system was designed before the repository was set up. It was mainly for, if you're just being an asshole in like one of the text channels, kind of stuff like that. And thankfully, we haven't had really any issues with that. So that system is still in place for things like that. But for the repository, this new system will hopefully introduce some more like fair penalties. And then finally, captains are not really incentivized to check on their player submissions. What ended up happening last season is every week I would spend about an hour making sure that all the replay links worked, and people didn't like accidentally submit, the same replay twice, so they would have like game 1 and then 2 game 3 links, all that kind of stuff. And it took a while, but I wanted to do it because I think it was important. But my hope in introducing this new system is that it incentivizes the captains to sort of like take some of my workload off, right, by having them check their own players' submissions, and they get something out of it as well. So what changes on the captain/players side? In theory, if you're a captain, you could choose not to engage with the system at all. We're not going to give penalties based on like refusing to report errors, because the strikes already do that. But I will ask that you make sure your players at least understand how the match slip works, how it should be done. Make sure that your players aren't like submitting after they lose, because that's something that happens more often than you would think. And if you want to check on your player submissions but you don't have that much time, I will say, me taking an hour to check the replays, it will not take you an hour. It will probably take you like 10 minutes at most, because I was checking the replays for every single person that reported. You would only have to check 4 replays per week. But if you don't have a ton of time, I totally understand. I would make sure that you check the replay links and the team member submissions. Those are the 2 most important things. And also make sure that your players are actually playing their matches, please. And then on the admin side, we're going to be making a new document that it's going to be kept private, because we don't want teams to be able to see like what other teams have strikes and all that. But if a captain wants to know like what their current strike and check total are, pardon me, please ask us. We'll be happy to tell you guys. In addition, when a strike is issued, I am making it a requirement that if the captain wants to know why the strike was like done, we will tell you. We're not just gonna like randomly give strikes to people for no reason. I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen, but just in case you guys were concerned about that, it will not happen. Additionally, like what I plan to do for my division is, if a strike is issued, I'll just ping the captain. So you won't have to like ask me every week like how many strikes do we have, like did we get any this week, all that kind of stuff. Like if a strike is going to be issued, you will know about it. If you want the reasoning for what strikes happened, that's something that you would have to ask for. I won't just automatically include that, but again, I would be happy to tell you. pardon me, I'm so sorry. And then finally, I am in charge of this system. It was kind of my idea in the first place. I've been the one that's sort of spearheaded everything. So if you have any questions or you want to like appeal a strike or anything like that, just ping me in the Discord or send me a DM, anything like that. I am happy to talk to you guys about it. And yeah, so essentially, quick summary. I'm so sorry. The system is team-based, it's repeatable, there's 5 strikes, but you have an opportunity to clear those strikes out with proper error reports. The system will hopefully make for more reasonable penalties. It also encourages captains to check that their players understand exactly how to submit the match slip and make sure that everything is correct. If you are a captain, feel free to ask your admin for what your team's current strike and check totals are. We're happy to do it. It doesn't take that much time anyway. And if you have any further questions, if you just skip to this part because you looked at the timestamps, maybe go watch the whole video. But also you can reach out to me either in your team channel in the general chat of the CVL Discord or send me a DM, whatever you want. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. Like I just said, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I want to make this as transparent and fair of a system as possible, and I also want to make it a system that like actually works, because the previous system I just don't think it was very good. But yeah, I would love to know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions before the season starts, let me know. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and have a good day. Goodbye.